Brandon Aiyuk in trade rumors again, but I know what you're saying. You're going, Smitty, Smitty, the Niners aren't going to not bring this guy back. This is crazy. Why are you even talking about this trash? Well, let me tell you something, Bob. These things go 100 different ways once they actually get down to the contract negotiation. Who's saying that they're going to pay him what he wants to get paid? Let's break this down. The possibility of Aiyuk getting traded. What happens if he does? We got to entertain that world. It's breaking news and floating around, whether it's fabrication, smoke season, doesn't matter. It's out there. It's being reported. This is hitting Bleacher Report. It's out there. You want me not to address it, Bob? Yes, Smitty. If I don't think it's going to be true, if I don't think it's going to be true, Smitty, why would you report on it? Fantasy Football Show begins right now.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com studios, it's the Fantasy Football Show.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
So a lot of people are going to say, Smitty, what are we doing here? I don't know. This fell off the horn. We'll have to put that on back on later. A lot of people are going to say they're going to take care of them. The Niners always take care of their players, and for the most part, this is true. Like, they pay their big players, and even John Lynch has said that before. But he's also been asked recently, "Hey, are you going to extend Aiyuk?" And he says, "We plan to. We'll do everything in our power to extend him." The question is this man going to wait around for the Niner way? The Niner way is usually to wait until August. They're certainly going to wait until after free agency, which, is understandable from a team and player perspective. But at the same time, how much further down the road in the offseason are they going to wait before extending him? I think they'll try and push it forward a little bit ahead of the Niner way to not create what they created with Deebo Samuel when Deebo held out 2 years ago. And he had such a horrible first year after that extension. Anytime a player holds out and misses camp, holds out, creates animosity between team and player, fan base and player, they always have a horrible year. If this thing follows the same track as Bosa, follows the same track as Deebo, Aiyuk set up for a very disappointing 2024 if all that goes the way that it went with the Deebo situation, for example. If they wait until after free agency to give him what he wants and then they give it to him, I think everything will be okay. I don't think this will be that big of a deal. If they try and string along this man until near August to give him his extension, he'll be demanding trades. Whether a trade goes down is totally different. Demanding a trade, Aiyuk, I almost guarantee you, will demand a trade if they try and inch this thing toward August. Doesn't mean he's getting traded. It just means he's trying to facilitate a damn deal. And sometimes in facilitating that, in requesting a trade, you trigger teams to start poking around. And then when the team says, well, we're really far apart on this, and him calling our bluff and us calling his bluff, allowing him to potentially maybe seek a trade, or it probably wouldn't even go that far. It would just be him demanding a trade and then people calling, hey, is Brandon available? Hey, we'll give you this for Brandon. Then all of a sudden this can of worms gets opened, right? You don't expect him to get traded. He requests a trade just to call your bluff. And then all of a sudden you got these open doors, and then there's this offer that comes in, and then all of a sudden you do a trade that you didn't expect to do. For example, on the flip side of this, though, Tyreek Hill requested a trade to get out of KC because they were kind of far apart on their contract extension, and Tyreek Hill ended up getting traded because it triggered this offer. It triggered a lot of things, and so Tyreek Hill ended up leaving. And he even said that when he requested a trade, it was only to get the contract done. He had no intention of really leaving until those doors started to open. So I know a lot of people are just going to initially not even watch the video. They're like, he's not getting traded. LOL. Tilted crying emojis. I'll put 3 of them to try and make you feel pain, Smitty, because I know how badly it hurts when somebody disagrees with you like I care. Brandon Aiyuk, let's just say in fairy tale world, and when I say fairy tale, I mean nightmare world scary movie world for a Niner fan because they don't want to lose Aiyuk. If he was to go somewhere, I don't even know where he'd go. Let's look at the draft board. I always like to look at the NFL draft board because it obviously gives you an indication of draft picks that would be available. Niner fans and the Niners would expect to get something along the lines of a late first-round pick back for Aiyuk, and I don't know that a team would overpay for that. I do believe a team like the Baltimore Ravens would want to give up, I think should give up the number 30 overall pick, if it even was kicking back a third or something like that, to get a guy like Brandon Aiyuk onto a roster that would help be a difference maker and push the Baltimore Ravens over the edge. The KC Chiefs would be insane to pass up on Brandon Aiyuk for a 32 overall pick. The higher we go in the NFL draft, the harder it is to imagine a team surrendering a first round pick. Example, the Dallas Cowboys. But I mean, would they do it for Brandon Aiyuk? Maybe. The closer you get to like 11, 12, 13, 14, the closer you're getting to a Roma Dunze. And I know Aiyuk fans are going to have trouble hearing this. This is not going to sound pretty good, but put your earmuffs on. Brandon Aiyuk is not as good as Roma Dunze. You can think what you want. Again, that's my opinion. Your opinion's your opinion. Dad and Grandpa always said you cannot please all the people all the time. I barely can please some of the people some of the time. But we start talking about Roma Dunze and Aiyuk. Come on. Aiyuk's just wanting to get paid bank, if not even for the contract difference, right? Aiyuk and a bunch of money committed, or Roma Dunze practically free on a rookie deal. Those are completely two different worlds financially, but I even believe Roma Dunze will be better than him talent-wise. You can think what you want. I'm going to Smitty approve because it's my show. Roma Dunze over Aiyuk. How's that?
You've just been Smitty approved.
But again, going back to the NFL draft board, where could he go? I mean, it really is a late draft selection that you'd be getting. There's just no way you could do anything different. Buffalo, you're also handing one of these teams is trying to level up on you. You're handing them Brandon Aiyuk. It's got to be a point where the Niners feel like, okay, yeah, we're handing him Brandon Aiyuk, but they're handing us a pick that will also help us replace Brandon Aiyuk and level up. And the Niners might view 28 for the Buffalo Bills if they were even going to trade with them, or the Baltimore Ravens 30. Easier to trade across the pond, though, and go into a different conference, let alone a different division. But these are potential maneuvers that I think we as outsiders, analysts, people all over can envision being possible, but the Niners are going to want something more. I think they value Aiyuk higher than the actual fair market value for him. That alone makes me feel like a trade's very unlikely anyway. At the end of the day, and I know Bob and Angry Angus and Panic Peter have not even made it this far in the video, so they're not going to hear the final message. I don't think Brandon Aiyuk gets traded. I don't think it's a very, very likely scenario whatsoever. I do believe that he does get extended. I do believe they settle on a number eventually, but I think they're going to be very far apart for a little while. So here's the problem. Here's the rub. If they don't start negotiating now, that long drawn out scrubbing social media, being insulted by the initial offer, walking away from the table, making a huge crazy public display of how far apart they are, that doesn't start till later. And all the trade opportunities go out the window if the Niners are hell-bent on not doing a thing until after free agency in the NFL draft. And if that's the case, then a lot of these trade components are gone and out the window. If they don't extend Aiyuk until after the NFL draft, his agent, he might know that he's got much more limited maneuverability later on in the contract negotiation, because if the trading partners are off the table because everybody's filled their openings and gone after the Roma Dunzes, gone after their Legettes, and they've got all their wide receivers and their wide receiver rooms buttoned up, he knows that his demand for a trade is going to hold less water. You know what I mean? So at some point, we might hear him kind of chirp up, get loud before the NFL draft and free agency, wanting his contract extension earlier, not later. In a Niner way, saying, our Niner ways in August, you're going to be lucky if we kind of circumvent the Niner way and move it toward, let's say, May. Okay? But that's not maybe going to fly with him. We'll find out. But expect this to be a bumpy road going into the draft and free agency, because his options will dwindle down if he waits till after, and if the Niners drag their feet from the moment the draft ends, if Aiyuk, let's say, somehow, some ways okay with waiting, they drag their feet, okay, don't want to do anything, they make it known we're not doing anything, wait until after the draft, we'll take care of you. Wait till after the draft, we'll take care of you. Then what's going to happen is that he's going to start making major waves saying, the draft's over, free agency's over, where are you? And he's going to get really impatient. And that's when the trade demands might kick in and a lot of animosity is going to be created. The fan base is already getting divided in chat rooms. You go live on this topic, it's like, forget him, screw Aiyuk. I love Aiyuk, he's the best. Forget him. Get him out of here. He's the best. We need Aiyuk. We better trade Debo. It's all over the place. And the Niner fan base, they can be very, very brutal toward their players, especially when they do public, displays of disgust. Debo got roasted. The animosity between the fan base and Debo is so bad. I don't know what's going to happen. Ultimately, I think a deal gets done, but at what damage, at what cost? Does Shanahan drag this out to the point where he has a bad season because of all this, and he's holding out because of all this, and he's upset because of all this? I think you're only creating potential problems by not handling it up front. And that's part of why I don't like Shanahan as a head coach. He's a phenomenal OC, one of the best offensive savants and architects of an offense and scheme in the game, but he's such a bad head coach on so many levels. And people don't know it or realize it or want to accept it because he can be so good at OCing that his offensive coordinating will overshadow any of the mistakes half the time. It's like a mask. It'll mask all of his faults, but at some point, all of the horrible decisions that he makes time and time again at the quarterback position, Jimmy G, Trey Lance, dragging all that out, dragging Debo out, Bosa, everything, and then probably this. And his new defensive coordinator hire, and then bringing in Staley, the stretching monster, the yoga man, the downward-facing dog assistant head coach in San Francisco. I don't know how you defend Shanahan at this point.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com studios, it's the Fantasy Football Show.